Alright, Shamu, we're back. Now, we talked a little bit about Dragon Rouge. We'll get a little bit more into it. But our big question now here, because there's a person tied to all this stuff, is who exactly is Thomas Karlsson? So Thomas Karlsson is the founder of Dragon Rouge, and he was also a scholar. He earned his PhD from Stockholm University for a dissertation on Johannes Beer's and Gothic Kabbalah, which is something that is drug very tightly into Dragon Rouge. So this is where we start to sit with Karlsson already being interested in this darker Kabbalah. Karlsson founding the Dragon Rouge, stating influences which are shaky. His and the Dragon Rouge's. It's part and parcel. But, okay, let's not do that, phone. I thought I said make no noise. We talked about he names Castaneda as one of his influences. He names Kenneth Grant as one of his influences. And he names far-right traditionalist Julius Evola as authors to be reading and recommended reading for the order because of what we discussed with Evola's Kali Yuga antinomian whole situation. Now, Dragon Rouge does not adopt his politics, but they do refer out. The site also discusses a qliphothic magic that exists next to and alongside this Nordic flavor they're doing with their rune strand. It's something they call the dark side of Nordic tradition, where Grant had his night side of Eden, Karlsson fires back and adds on with the night side of the runes, which is a book that is based on the idea, and if any of the Nordic people that I follow and everything that are watching and they want to add on to this or correct me here, feel free to. But it leans on Uthark, which was a fringe reordering of the runes in the 1930s by Sigurd Agrell. And Karlsson, I almost said Grant, Karlsson takes this and starts to work it into a qliphothic system. Now, Uthark is not recognized scholarly as a historical way that the runes were worked, and as far as I'm aware, the vast majority of Norse pagans also do not recognize Uthark as anything but a fringe thing. The problem becomes, and this is where we start to see the problems I discussed in the beginning, and the problems I discussed in the video that led up to all this lecture, is once we allow this, once we allow in admittedly a historic order to do these things, and you're allowed to start from a non-accepted rune order, everything that flows downstream is very, very shaky methodology. And this is what Dragon Rouge kind of lies on. They lie on the very shaky methodology of this idea of the qliphot. They rely on this very shaky idea of this night side of the runes and the methodology with the Uthark. They lean heavily on Grant's whatever with Universe B and the Tunnels of Set and the Worldwide Set cult and the Draconian. They lean very heavy on these things. And this does a very important thing to the left-hand path, and it is one of the biggest things we deal with nowadays. Because modern left-hand path, as we have demonstrated in these last 20 or so videos, didn't develop in a vacuum. It takes these ideas, and it really funnels to Kenneth Grant in a large way, where Kenneth Grant mythology normalizes Grant normalizes the myth building as a legitimate engine for doctrine. His splicing of the Egypt, the Tantra, the Kabbalah, the UFOs, Lovecraft, Universe B, all of this into some strange transgressive cosmology. What happens is it kind of twists the entire scene's expectations. Aesthetic and narrative force are able to trump history and trump philology. Now, Grant holds this in a mythological way. What Dragon Rouge does is institutionalizes it. So the Nightside vocabulary, the Qliphothic mood are all now turned into a full degree system, and it's exported through the different books, through the different courses, through music culture, as Karlsson was involved in the Therion project, and what is now kind of myth becomes a whole structure. And so now we are looking at the contemporary look and feel of the Left-Hand Path. It's qliphothic, it's dark, it's the dark tree, it's antinomian, it's apotheotical. These things funnel in right here, and this creates the default map. It's antinomian apotheosis, it's qliphoth, it's all this idea that you can be comfortable with these large syncretisms, and that history doesn't matter as much as the narrative that you are telling. The archetype is more important to lean on than the history of what these people wrote about their cultures. And because this flourishes, we see a lot of our recurring problems. We see a lot of lineage theater, people claiming these great ahistoric archetypal lineages, people forging successions between one group to another, etymologies in the occult being loosened and kind of abstracted to fit any given thing. The standard of evidence and reciprocity has now vanished, because what matters is mythic coherence. What matters is the personal apotheotic path. If you are not having the success, you have not cultivated yourself. And that is what we see. The coin of the realm now is no longer putting in the work, doing the research, doing the grades, doing this, studying these things, understanding where they're coming from, warning against the transgressions of the system, trying to understand these things. We are so far away from the non-dual idea of Vamachara now that we're in the hot topic aesthetic. That's what we are. It's become, well, not quite. We're going to get there. We're going to get there with our next one. But now we see where all of this was allowed to build and to flourish, and where Grant was allowed to do their stuff. And then Dragon Rouge takes this, that this is now where we sit. Karlsson was able to do this. Karlsson's political optics also a little. There are associations with interviews of people who are not good, but Karlsson associated with everybody. So, that's not something we can level on him. Like I said, they did distance themselves from some of Evola's stuff. But still, we sit here at a time where the 11th grade Qliphoth and the Uthark are showing the mechanism of how the LHP is supposed to work. Start with a speculative reinterpretation. Wrap it in a story. Organize people around it. And the payoff is reach and identity. That's it. The costs are immense, but the payoff is reach, identity, and money. That is going to be it for tonight. Our next one's going to be Stephen Flowers. But until then, may your ancestors bring you the sweetest of portents, and may you all have wonderful dreams. Shalom.